Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson, Senior Magistrate Social Scarce, the Honorable Janet Cummings Edwards, Chancellor of the Judiciary, Honorable Roxanne George, Chief Justice, distinguished members of the magistracy, distinguished and esteemed members of the Diplomatic Corps, CARICOM General Counsel, our Commissioner of Police, Commander of this division, our respected regional chairman, chairperson of the Neighborhood Democratic Council, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to be here and to stand in His Excellency's shoes this afternoon to deliver remarks. And it is an honor for many reasons, some very personal to me. The Vigilance Magistrates Court is, as the Honorable Chancellor indicated, is very close to home. I grew up just a stone throw away from this location, and I also hold parliamentary and political responsibility for the east coast of Demerara, where I began my legal career as a member of the practicing bar. I spent many weeks in this compound, months after months, perhaps years after years. Spent a lot of time in the old building. Could tell you the heat, and we didn't have this pronounced global warming then. We had some windows that used to open upwards, the long time colonial windows, but half of them never used to open. They were stuck permanently, nailed down. The benches were wooden, the floors were wooden, the stairway, Chancellor used the adjectival description of rickety. I wish to adopt that. And when you sitting at the bar table, wooden bench, wooden floor, and then a gentleman by the name of Bernard Celestino de Santos comes and sits next to you, you feel a downward impact. Many days I sat next to the likes of Mr. Bernard de Santos in this courtroom, in this building. So this court complex holds a very special place personally to me. And it is quite an honor, as I said, for me to be associated with this opening ceremony. The Chancellor spoke about a wrench in the wheel when the financing of the process suffered some delay. Madam Chancellor, it was not a wrench in the wheel. When the proposals came, the sum that was being requested was comparatively large. And of course, this magistrates court, if you look at it, and most of you are familiar with magistrate courts across the country, this one is quite different. This one is possibly the largest magistrate court building in Guyana, and possibly one of the largest I've seen in the Caribbean. I'm talking about not multiple courtrooms, but one with only 2 courts. And the Chancellor has explained that It's technologically equipped with the highest form of advancement in that area. So indeed, as I said, comparatively, it did raise some eyebrows. And I had the privilege again to have been present. It was a Christmas Eve day when we had a discussion with the Minister of Finance, His Excellency the President. And after we went through the estimates and we understood that where we were going with this type of building, then there was no hesitation whatsoever in approving the requisite financing. And it demonstrates vividly the government's commitment to invest heavily in the judicial system and in the legal system of our country. And it demonstrates vividly the government's commitment to upholding the rule of law and ensuring that there is equal and ready access to justice right across the length and breadth of our country. This court does not stand alone. We are building magistrates' courts at Coven John, not very far from here, at Mabaruma, at Anna Regina. Next week we will be turning the sod for magistrates' court to be erected at Friendship on the east bank of the Demerara and at Timeri further down the east bank of the Demerara. We have completed spanking new buildings in Maibikuri, Blackbush Polder, Bartica, Kakwani, and I may have Linden, Wismar, and I'm sure I would have omitted a few. So this certainly is not an isolated edifice, an investment. It is a continuous one. And government is very cognizant that with the economic and social transformation taking place in our country, so must the justice system, the rule of law, and access to justice. And the government is committed to invest heavily in those areas. Mr. Alex Graham spoke about digital payment platforms being part of this court apparatus. Only last 2 weeks, the same month, we passed in the National Assembly the e-communication and transactions bill. It has been assented and it is now law. And it is that piece of legislation that lays the statutory and legitimate basis and framework for all these digital transactions to take place and become formally recognized by our laws. In short, that bill or that law, as it is now law, allows for every transaction and every form of payment that could have been done or that are being done manually to be done electronically and digitally. And the law recognizes it as valid and as enforced as it has, as it had it been done non-digitally or non-electronically. So everything that we are doing manually now, we have the legal capabilities to do them electronically and digitally. All we now have to do is to build the requisite infrastructure and platform to bring those transactions into fruition. The Commissioner of Police and the Ministry of Legal Affairs with the technology people are working together in not only designing the law, but crafting a system which we will have to engage the judiciary once we get our concept and design clear, whereby we will be issuing traffic tickets electronically using cameras that are installed across the country, which we intend to continue to do, and have the necessary mechanisms to have those cameras generate images whenever there is a traffic breach. And those images will be sent to the errant drivers or owners of the vehicles, and they will be required to pay those tickets at magistrate courts offices throughout the country, where manually those tickets are currently being paid. At the level of the government, of course, with this law that I'm referring to now in force, central government and state apparatus now have to equip themselves and be equipped with all the digital devices and platforms necessary to allow for this digitization process to unfold within the public and private sector. Yesterday I met with the Bankers Association of Guyana because they have to play a central role, because the payments eventually have to go through the banking sector. So they also have a very important role to play in this exercise. This court, no doubt, will play a very important role in the maintenance of law and order in this part or in this magisterial district. Growing up here, I know the regard that the ordinary citizen has for the majesty of the courts. To get good behavior, to get orderly conduct, many times in these communities, it is the threat of bringing a person to this destination that brings about those types of commendable conduct. And as the Chancellor said, a trip to the court is rarely done in solitude. It is an entire familial outing. Who can't fit inside will stand outside and wait. So I am happy, and this court has a heavy workload. So I am happy that we are, for the first time, having a duplex court that will allow 2 magistrates, and I hope that they will sit simultaneously, and for 5 days per week. That will bring great speed to the way litigation is conducted, and that is always welcomed in our system that has been plagued with chronic delays over the years. As you heard, it has important adjunct facilities, a domestic violence room, a drug rehabilitation room. No doubt it will have conference facilities for lawyers and clients. And these are the important facilities that our courts are now being equipped right across Guyana. And the added feature also is the residence facilities for the magistrates to be here. So wherever the new courts are being built, they have residence quarters for the magistrates, and I believe I've heard the clerk as well. These new facilities, in addition to the architecture and design of these courthouses, no doubt will enhance and augment efficiency. Not very far from here, the government, in a collaboration between the Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Ministry of Human Affairs, is constructing an edifice that will be styled a Hope and Justice Center. It's a unique concept that we have designed, and it will be a home that will accommodate domestic violence victims, sexual abuse victims, trafficking in persons victims, and it will be equipped with social workers, medical personnel, police presence will be there, and hopefully we have a lawyer there as well. And it would accommodate these victims if there is no other accommodation available other than to go back to the source or the locus in co of the abuse. So is going to be, for want of a better word, a halfway house for domestic violence victims, etc. It's a pilot project that we are doing in Region 4 on the east coast of Demerara, on Region 3, in Region 3, and in Region 1. And once the pilot is successfully executed, it will be replicated across all the administrative regions in our country. This magistrate district and this magistrate's court also is part of a pilot project currently being executed by the Director of Restorative Justice. You will know that restorative justice is now a formal part of our legal system. We have an act of parliament that establishes it. There is a director, and we have started right here on the east coast of Demerara, cradling the Vigilance Magistrate's Court on the eastern side and the Sparenda Magistrate's Court on the western side, a group of communities in which that pilot project in restorative justice is being executed. The regional chairman kindly allowed us use of some part of his building at the RDC office at Triumph on the east coast of Demerara. So the learned magistrates who are presiding here, if they have not already been engaged, will soon be engaged by the Director of Restorative Justice. And again, that is going to be a permanent feature of our magistrates' courts across the country, because restorative justice will be practiced in the Magistrates Court across the length and breadth of Guyana. I say all of that to give you an indication of the exciting time that we are celebrating the launch of this wonderful, imposing, and impressive facility. It could not have come at a better time. Massive changes are taking place across the legal sector, across the legislative landscape, and in particular in the area of criminal justice and in areas that will impact this Magistrates Court. Only this morning, Madam Chancellor and Madam Chief Justice, I held a conference with a consultant whom I am engaging to rehaul and relook at our Evidence Act. It's now, our Evidence Act is 1893, United Kingdom. By sheer passage of time, and without even me making out a case, it requires overhaul. So that is on the agenda. The Domestic Violence Act will be repealed soon, and a new one will be, it will be replaced by a new one, a Family Violence Bill. That will be modern, that will be both civil and criminal. Pieces of legislation like the Extramural Work Act, that's going to be repealed and replaced by a modern substitute, and that will allow magistrates the facility and the discretion to have at your disposal a repertoire of penal sanctions alternative to custodial sentences. Because we are moving in the direction where we believe that custodial sentences should be reserved only for the very violent and serious offenses. We can make greater use of our human resources, and we can rehabilitate and reform them in a more efficient and economic way, other than by locking them away in prison centers across the country. So I know the heat is sweltering, and I will not want to overstay my time. Honorable Chancellor of the Judiciary and Madam Chief Justice, I want to congratulate you and Team Supreme. I know that's the name, I didn't hear that name mentioned today. But Team Supreme is the brand that I have become accustomed to as the energizing brand, of course, led by Her Honor the Chancellor, that would have accomplished all these majestic tasks of building these edifices across our country. I want to once again congratulate you and to thank you very much for inviting His Excellency and, of course, by extension, myself to be part of this and for affording me the opportunity to offer a few remarks. Thank you very much.